Hello lovelies, and welcome to the June 2025 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name's Lesley and this is a podcast about knitting, spinning, crochet, yarn things, recorded in the south coast of the UK. Welcome if you're here for the first time or you've been here many times before. Thank you, I really appreciate your company. It's called Not Quite Enough Yarn, despite the fact that I have lots, and I'm not in my usual room at the moment, so normally you would see a lot of yarn behind me, because I rarely buy enough of the same colour to make one item, particularly a full-size garment for me. I buy things because I like them and they're pretty, or people buy them for me. My husband is a bit of a devil for that. Bless him. This is my not complaining face, obviously. Yeah, so that's why it's not quite enough yarn, because most things I make, well, it started off blue, but I didn't have quite enough yarn, so now we've got some green in it, that kind of thing. I record throughout the month as I have things to show you, and thank you for the feedback on last month's podcast where I varied up the format slightly, and I'm showing you a little bit more about the items that I'm making to give you a bit more detail on the thought process and that sort of thing. So that will continue, and thank you for the comments. I always love to see your comments, so thank you to everyone who does. If you don't like to comment on videos, no obligation, no problem. I'm just grateful for you watching, so thank you. Yes, so I record throughout the month and then put things together and post on the last weekend of the month. We're running a make-along this year. This is the Modification Mal, and that's running until the 15th of October. Odd date, but it will make sense at the time. And it's for patterns that you modify. So this applies to knitting or crochet, and modification, it's got to be more than just yarn substitution. So if you're varying the stitch count because you're working at a different gauge, if you're varying the silhouette because you're making a longer sock or a different type of neckline or a different sleeve shape or length, that kind of thing, something that changes the outline of the garment, or you're changing the stitch pattern. So the original idea is in stocking stitch, but you're doing it all in cables, for example. These all count as modifications. Whips are allowed and you don't have to finish it. It's just really to encourage people to modify patterns to make them what they want them to be. Whether that's a better fit or more to their taste. It's just to encourage folks to make little changes to suit them better. And of course, if you are creating the design yourself, that's definitely a modification. Modification from a blank piece of paper. Every month I'm drawing a pattern prize. So I'm going to pause now and hand you over to future Les, who will give you this month's winner. Thanks, past Les. Here I have the winner of this month's draw for a pattern. So thank you to everyone who's been very active on the thread this month on Ravelry. And just to confirm, if anyone can't use Ravelry, send me a picture, send me whatever you want put on it, and I'll put it on in your place so you can still have a place in the drawer, as it were. So thank you to everyone who took part. I did a random number generator between posts 28 and 154 inclusive. And the winner was number 83, and that is Woolen Flute. That's Frances from Toronto. And Frances was responding to another person's comment who was commenting on her photo of an item that she made. Beautiful two-colour item. And Frances did confirm that it was because she didn't have quite enough yarn. So, excellent work. So congratulations, Frances. Please do get in touch with me either on Ravelry or email me notquiteenoughYarn@gmail.com or carrier pigeon, I don't know, however is best for you, and let me know what pattern you would like and we'll get that to you. Thanks a lot and well done. Back to you, past Les. Thanks, future Les. Congratulations to the winner. At the end of the make-along, so as I say, it closes on the 15th of October, there will be two prizes for physical prizes, so yarn, that kind of thing. So there will be two prizes drawn, and for those posts a photo would be good so we can see the project, please. That would be fab. I think that's all the notices. Yep, that's about it for this intro. So thank you and on with the show. Hello lovelies, got some hand spun. I don't know much about it. It's an unknown braid. I've clearly lost the label some time ago. It was in my fibre stash, but I don't know what it is. Braid of different colours, so I decided to do a 2-ply fractal spin, and here it is. As you can see, there are some different colours in there. This has been in the naughty corner this morning because it got terribly tangled as I was trying to skein it up, because I always skein it, soak it, then reskein it. I find that makes it play nicely when I want to cake it up to use. But it wasn't playing nicely this morning, so I've given it some time to think about what it's done, and it's now in a cake, and it will stay in a cake because that's fine. So yeah, 2-ply fractal, it's 96 grams, it's come out about 90 odd meters, and it's about an 11 wraps per inch. Not the most consistent yarn I've ever made, but that's fine, that happens. So yes, don't know what I'll use it for, but something. It's about a double knitting weight, so I'll be able to incorporate it in with some other yarn I have. So there we go. Cheers. Hello lovelies. Oh, traffic. Don't know if you can hear that or not. Now we've got weather in the high 20s at the moment, thunderstorm warnings. Caught a bit of sun in my friend's garden yesterday. We were under a parasol, but you know what it's like, you're chatting, the sun moves round. So I thought I'd finish a blanket, because I'm smart like that. This is one that you saw a while ago in its earlier stages. Now I have washed it, but I think I've left the stitch marker on it, so I'm lucky that didn't tear a hole. Yep, there's the stitch marker. That's where I was once before. I will take that off. So this was the blanket that started as a mosaic using the No Limits pattern, and as always all patterns will be linked in the notes below. I got fed up with that very quickly. Although I love the way it looks, I got fed up with the process of making it. Nothing wrong with the pattern, this is purely to do with my patience levels, which as we know are low at the best of times. So there's that chap. Because I got fed up with it, I started then doing double crochet. These are all UK terms. But I realised I was making a very heavy blanket, a very thick blanket, and a very slow blanket, although I had tried to put a little bit of colour work in here, a bit of tapestry crochet. So reaching that well-known phrase, blow this for a game of soldiers, I then decided to use the 2 colours that I had, and I'll go on to that in a minute with what I mean, and did 1 row treble crochet, 1 row double crochet, until I ran out of yarn pretty much. Again, these are UK terms, so that would be 1 round single, 1 round double in US terms. When I say 2 different yarns, they are the same yarn. This is Cowney Effect Garn in the, obviously, rainbow colourway. So 2 identical balls of yarn that look very different, because depending on where you are, you may be looking at the same colour or a completely different one. So to make sure I didn't get confused, although as it happened I didn't, because I was doing one in one stitch and one in another, it became easy to identify which ball was which. But I did put a little stitch marker around the yarn, so it just ran down the yarn to the ball wherever I was working it, and just let me know that that was the double crochet yarn. When I got to the end, or near to it, I decided to do a shell edging, and then I had a bit of yarn left over, so I then went around that with double crochet just to finish that off. I have washed this and hung it on the line, and you'll see a picture of it here on the line. But I didn't pin out the individual shells because there are a lot of them. I probably have enough pins. I probably don't have enough patience. And also bending over it to pin it, my back would not be grateful. So yes, this blanket is finished. It's about 50 inches square, and it used 700 and something meters of yarn, which was the extent of what I had. I had 6 balls of this. It was probably about the oldest yarn in my stash. This goes back to 2008. No, it might be earlier. We may be talking about yarn that's nearly 20 years old. Now, I realise some people have stash yarn that's considerably older than that, but this is the oldest recorded yarn I have in the stash, let's put it that way. And it has now been used, and I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. If I'd had the patience to make the whole blanket like this, it would have been very thick and very heavy. It would have looked amazing, but it would never have got finished, and this way it has. So as it's still in the high 20s and we have thunderstorm warnings in various parts of the country, I'm going to put this down now. Cheers. Hello lovelies. I used to work with a chap who gave me one of the best backhanded compliments I've ever had when he said to me, "For an intelligent woman you can be very stupid." And if he hadn't been so blasted accurate, I'd have got cross. But he was absolutely right, so I couldn't. I just laughed. So I showed you that blanket, and this morning I was putting the new blanket, which I'll show you later, into that drawer. I have a little cabinet behind my chair in the sitting room, my knitting chair, and in the top drawer there is one project, in the second drawer there's another, and in the third one there is the blanket that I'm currently working on. Blankets seem to be a bit of a theme at the moment. So I'd started working on the new blanket, was finishing for today, we're back on the rotor, so I opened the drawer to put the new blanket into there and found this, a ball of Counter yarn. So, faced with two choices, that of unpicking that border I'd put on that rainbow blanket and putting this into it and then putting another border on, or not doing that, guess which I chose? This is, depending on what you look it up on, it's listed as a sport weight yarn. I haven't measured the whips per inch? No, wraps per inch, so I couldn't tell you that. But it's 400 meters per 100 grams, which is fairly standard fingering weight, 4-ply weight yarn. And it is 100% wool, so we haven't got fibres of different types affecting the weight per metre, or metre per weight. So I am going to put this in with the 4-ply yarn in my stash. I may even put it in the sleeves of my stained glass window cardigan that I'm making. Depends how else I'm doing with the minis that I'm using. The colour changes may be too slow for the sleeves for that. That's my only thing, that you'll end up with all one side being purple and all the other side being green or something like that, which is not the effect that I would be going for. But it does work beautifully in fingering weight, in stranded and other colourwork patterns, so it will get used. Hopefully it won't take as long as it took for the rest to get used to this stage. And yes. Go! Hello lovelies. I've got the door open and there may be some strange noises. I think some people next door are kind of building stuff, so apologies if it's noisy. Himself has selective hearing. Many do. It doesn't always work to my disadvantage. I did say to him when he was going away, please don't buy me any yarn. I don't need any yarn. Please don't buy me any yarn. And he didn't hear that bit. He went to North Berwick, where there is a lovely shop, which I've never been to, but he's been there many times, called Chandler's. And this is about the 4th or possibly more, 5th, 6th year that he's been there. And he usually gets me something gorgeous. And he has this time, despite my request to the contrary. So I'm kind of not really complaining, but let's just say I wasn't complaining about the chocolate that was in here as well. But I don't know what's happened to that. I'm not in a position to show you it, sorry. But here are the yarns that he bought. So first we have some Katia Basic Merino. That's coming up very red on the camera screen. It's more of a coral colour. It just gives a number, which is 66, but it's rather fabulous and beautifully soft. Talking of beautifully soft, and he's got me some of this before in more of a pink base, so I think the two will go together nicely. This is Almanac Artisan Yarn, sorry, www.yarnboutique, and it's done vegan, 70% merino, 20% silk, 10% cashmere, 350 meters per 100 grams, 4-ply, and it's rather fabulous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. 4-ply being the weight in UK terminology, so that would be fingering weight. Here we have some more artisan yarns. This is Monroe, no colourway name, small batch custom spun yarns, 4-ply merino singles, 100 grams, 400 meters. And again, the colours are coming up a little bit brighter, but only just. It's not too bad at an accuracy. And then he also bought me, again going for the soft, some Cresta hand-dyed lace weight, 72% kid mohair, 28% silk, again from Artisan Yarns. And it is fabulous. It's very slightly paler than it's coming up on screen. And there's a little bit of change in the colour, a little bit of, it's pretty solid, but just a little bit of variation. And it's rather gorgeous. So he's a very naughty himself, because I had said, and with good reason, which you will see later, please don't buy me more yarn. But I can't be cross for long, can I? It's like being cross with Heidi, it never lasts for long. Hello lovelies. Last month you remember I was working on a crochet sweater, the Drops Viola Flora, no other way around, Flora Viola pattern, and wasn't terribly impressed with the pattern. But I have persevered, I am persevering. I am nothing if not resilient. Well, that's sadly not true, but you know, we'll try. So I've done some more, and I can't remember where I was last time I showed you, because I don't know that I've got a marker in the right place. I think I was just about to split for the sleeves, and I have now split for the sleeves and done this much, so I'm not much further on than when you last saw it. I'm still not a fan. There is nothing that's happened in the next set of instructions which make me like this pattern more. Doesn't make me like it any less, but my opinion was fairly low to start with. So this is the pattern which told me I should have an approximate number of stitches, rather than you will now have 93 stitches or whatever. So you'll have approximately 93. Yes. The set of instructions after you split for the sleeves are no more clear. You have a new chart because where you have this pattern, you're excuse me, you're increasing down the centre to give you a V shape at the centre front, and because we're no longer increasing for the yoke, there are decreases at the sides to keep it a relatively straight pattern, otherwise you'd end up with a huge circle effectively, which may be what you want but isn't what this design is meant to be. I have done the setup row for that, and you know when you're reading something and you think these are just words, and I understand all these words individually, but as a sentence I'm getting lost. That's how I felt about this pattern. It could be me, it could absolutely be me. I am more than willing to say maybe I'm just a bit confused at the moment. This is very possible. But yeah, it is a bit... I think Pip from Woolly Coochies called it a bit lacking, and I think that was an excellent way to describe it. Just needs a little bit more detail just to give you the confidence to know that you're on the right track. What I think all these words were saying was, decrease where you have a decrease, increase where you have an increase, and work a fan where you work a fan, where you have one of those. And by the time I got to that stage, I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do anyway. I was trying to work exactly to the pattern for the shaping, for the yoke part of the sweater, but now I'm more prepared to just wing it and do what feels right, because I tried this on, this fits okay, the rest I will work out as I go. So that's where we are. Haven't done a lot on it this week. This is the week my sister's visiting, so because I need to, or needed at first, to concentrate on this and try and work out what needed to be an increase or a decrease or what have you, I put it to one side. So I've done a little bit. I will do more next week when I have time on my own. The yarn, King Cole Merino 4-ply anti-tickle. Again, words not necessarily in the right order. Definitely King Cole, definitely anti-tickle, Merino 4-ply. This is some sock yarn from Truly Hooked. When I finish this sweater, I'll go through all the detail, all the yarns in detail, including colourway names and that sort of thing. And any patterns I'm working on, I will link in the notes below, in the same way that anything I'm wearing that's handmade, I will detail below, should you be interested in it. Yes, so still not in love with this pattern, but I do want the finished item. So I'm going to carry on. Looks just like a poncho at the moment. It will become a sweater. And hopefully when you see it later this month, it will be more sweater-like and will be beginning to take shape the way we're expecting it to. But I do feel that's no thanks to the pattern. And that's me being all black and white about it, and if it's not perfect, it's awful. No, it's not. It's just not very good. Could be clearer. And to repeat, if you're a beginner, do not go near this pattern. Find something else that you like and work on that instead, because this will be enough to put you off trying to crochet a garment ever again. I'm beginning to feel like that, and I like crocheting garments. So yeah, if you're a beginner crocheter, leave this one till later. Work on something clearer in the earlier stages. I'll see you later. Cheers. Hello lovelies. Back by unpopular demand.
I'm back! Hi fans, nice to see you all again.
Yes, it's my sister Bev.
Hello. Here for another week of joyalties and going out. Joyalties, it's my new word.
Yeah.
Yes, because I
even the dog's walking away
got my
now.
words in a muddle, so a fun time, I'll say instead.
So what have we been doing, Bev?
We've had fun because, like last year, we arrived and a special event occurred.
Happy birthday to you, squashed tomatoes and stew, bread and butter in the gutter, happy birthday to you.
Yes, it was my birthday again, so that's a whole year since you last had the pleasure of... Actually, I think that was the first time we did a bloggy thingy.
Highlight for the rest of the family was our 4-year-old great niece saying she was 10 years older than she is.
How old's Auntie Bevy? 73. Thanks, darling. So on my actual birthday, we did our annual Race for Life walk. So little sis very kindly let us all meet at her house. She ran big sis, niece, great niece and I down to Alexandra Park where we did the walk, which we completed. And great niece actually walked probably half of it, which, considering she's 4.5 and it was a 5k walk, we were impressed with, and she got a medal at the end. Then we came back and then we had to open my cards and presents. Auntie Bev, I open your presents. So my greaty niece helped me open my cards and presents. I've never known a birthday card envelope to be opened in so many pieces. There was a lot of paper around, wasn't there?
It was like confetti.
Yes, yeah. So we did that. Then we went for our traditional after Race for Life walk pub lunch, in which my 2 brother-in-laws joined us, and we let little sis come along as well, partly because she drove. And we had our pub lunch. The mob went back, and then I came back here because I've stayed here for the week. And little sis kindly took me to Eastbourne Sunday night to a carpenter's experience evening. For those that don't know me, which is a lot of you, because you don't know me at all, really.
Oh, the lucky ones.
I know. I love the Carpenters. Karen Carpenter, to me, best singer ever. So Les very kindly booked a ticket to the Hippodrome, was it?
In Eastbourne.
In Eastbourne. So Les and I went across to that on Sunday night. Monday, we went out to Chartwell. For those of you that don't know, it's the home of Sir Winston Churchill, who quite a few years ago they found loads of his paintings. He's been described as quite a prolific artist, depending on your level of what you think an artist is. Some good, some mediocre, I would say.
Prolific because of the quantity he produced, but I mean...
Standard-wise, hit and miss.
It became evident, he knew a lot of artists, and it became evident that he was very strongly influenced by differing styles.
Definitely, yeah.
And according to the guy who gave a talk, sort of ended up mostly in the Impressionist style. But some of them you could look around, they have a lot of the pictures all together in this studio, and you could look around and think they were from different artists because they were so different.
That's it.
Which makes sense because people find their own method and their own way. But that was...
we went there. I mean, we'd done the house, we worked out about 45 years ago, didn't we?
Gotta be.
But I wanted to see the paintings because I don't ever remember seeing them, and I don't think they were on display. There were a few in the house when we visited all those years ago, but the not in the studio as they are now. So we did that. We got a minibus up to the house, which was good because it meant Les didn't have to walk very far.
I'm old and I've got a stick.
That's it. So then we went round the house, round the studio, round the gardens, took quite a few photographs. Then we got the minibus back to the cafe and did our obligatory sandwich, cake and cup of tea. And then yesterday we had a good day. Yesterday we decided we'd go to Hurstmont Zoo Castle here in Sussex. So Les went online and booked for us, which was brilliant. Drove out there, got to the booth where they let you into the car park, and the lady said, "You do know the castle's not open, don't you?" No.
It was a bit misleading. There was a sign when you were on the website. There was a notice that came up saying that the exhibits would be closed on Friday and from 1 o'clock on Thursday. So we thought we won't go then. And thinking back, it said entry to the castle is only available with guided tours. They're doing a lot of renovation work at the moment, so they're being careful about how they let people in for safety reasons, which you completely understand. And said, and the guided tours are available at these times on these days. But it also said day tickets are available. So I'd ordered this day ticket, or these day tickets, and nothing came up to say guided tours not available on this day. So I will be sending an email, just not to get anything back, but just to say a bit more clarity would be helpful. Even just something that when you click on that date for your day ticket, just to let you know house not open on this day or tours not available, or just something to flag up to you, because we were planning our weeks. It was like, should we do this Tuesday or should we do this Thursday? Well, we won't do it Thursday because they're not open in the afternoon. You know, and you're going through those things. You're not necessarily thinking, what should we do on Tuesday, and then checking which days are available. It was a kind of fluid situation. So I will be sending an email just suggesting, from the point of view of a disgruntled customer, that I'm not that disgruntled. I will just suggest that a bit more clarity on their website would have been useful. Having said that, it was saved by having really lovely gardens, because it said the gardens are there, and we're not averse to a garden, but we're not
gardeners, but we do like to see a nice garden.
Yeah. And I will put some pictures in at the end of some of the things that we saw. So yes, it turned out to be not a complete washout, which we feared it might be.
We did show our displeasure because we only had a cup of tea. We didn't have cake in the tea shop.
Yeah.
We went on to Ashburnham, which I love Ashburnham, beautiful. And we had a cup of tea and a lunch there, didn't we?
We did.
So, which was very nice. And then I walked down. Ashburnham is it's a retreat, but the orangery is open for lunch, teas, coffees, etc. And to go into the grounds, you go over this little bridge where there's obviously a lake, and I just love it. And you've taken me twice now, haven't you? And each time I go, I love this. So when we'd finished our lunch, while Les made her way back to the car, I walked down to the bridge so I could take some pictures. And she very kindly picked me up. I thought she might drive past and leave me there, but I know she was wavering. But yeah, she did bring me back home.
Yeah, it's a Christian retreat centre, but it's built around what was initially a big sort of country house.
Yeah.
And the gardens, I think, is it Capability Brown or Inigo Jones? Capability Brown.
Yeah.
So beautiful grounds. Part of a huge estate, and I think there's still a lot of farming and that on the rest of the estate. But
talking of farming, going back to Hurstbourne Zoo, oh my goodness, we have never seen so many cows in a field. There were hundreds in this one field. It was just unbelievable.
It's a mighty herd.
It was a big herd of cows.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So sorry, going
back
to... Yes.
Yeah,
so then we went to... What was it?
Brightling. We went there first, didn't we?
Oh yes, sorry, when we left
Hurstbourne
Zoo. We went to this little village called Brightling, which Les will tell you about.
Mad Jack Fuller, but my battery is about to go, so I will change the battery and then we will continue.
We'll reconvene. See you in a moment.
Brace yourselves.
Hello, we're back. Oh, I'm off singing a little bit.
I was hopeful.
Oh. I have to be in it, you know. So
Mad Jack Fuller was a local landowner. Was it 17th century, 18th century? 18th century, I think.
Just so I'm in it.
And he built a number of follies. Follies being small, useless buildings.
Usually on a hillside somewhere.
Yeah. And we were going to go looking for them, but for most of them, they are in the middle of a field and you have to walk to them. And I'm not in a position where I can do a lot of walking at the moment. So we went to Brightling Church, where his tomb is. And it is enormous. It's a pyramid. And it's about the height of the main body of the church.
Amazing.
So yes, we were driving along saying, I wonder if we'll find the tomb. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
You know, it was just as huge.
Can you miss it, as they say?
No. So we had a quick look in the church, didn't we? Which is a
nice little Doomsday book mentioned in the Doomsday.
Yes, which for those who don't know means that the Doomsday book was the book that William the Conqueror wrote to have almost like an audit of the land. Earthquake. The land he'd invaded, so invaded the UK in 1066. In 1086, the Domesday Book was it completed in 1086 or started? Anyway, 11th century. It was a book where he was just listing everything in the country so he knew what he owned. And given that it was 11th century, not many things exist now that were in the Domesday Book, but Brightling Church is one of the things that was. So there we go.
You know, you're actually quite clever, aren't you?
No. So
it's frightening.
Yeah, so that's a very ancient building, or very ancient
beautiful
site.
Old village as well. The old school, the old post office, lovely old building. And I don't know if we've mentioned it before, but I do love old chimneys on buildings, and I do love, Auntie, you know what I'm going to say, I do love a doorway. Love them. Old doorways, I'm there every time.
One day she is going to get arrested for taking photographs of people's houses.
I am, because I like that doorway, I like that window, I've got to do it. So there we have it.
There we go.
So that was yesterday, and then we came back.
Home and I fell asleep. I basically went into a coma for an hour and a half.
Yeah, she did, bless her. So I had to talk to himself, which, bearing in mind, normally when I'm hearing himself was quite novel, actually.
But tomorrow...
Yes.
Bev is going to be playing around with himself.
Yes, I'm going to take him out for a round of golf.
Yeah, they're going to do 18 holes.
Yeah.
And
he's hired a buggy, so I don't have to walk all the 18 holes, bless him. So, yeah, looking forward to that. So,
tomorrow. And then Friday we hope to go to...
Hoping to go to Sissinghurst Castle. Never. The weird thing is, being from Kent, obviously I don't live there now, but I've never done the buildings in West Kent. So I haven't done Sissinghurst, I haven't done Hever, I haven't done Knoll Park. So here in Hastings, it's actually closer to them than they are if I stay at Big Sister's in Herne Bay. So I said to little sis, if she's up for it, could we do Chartwell, which we did. And then we were going to do Hever.
Yes.
But we've had a change of plan on that, and we're going to hopefully do Sissinghurst instead. Which, for those... Now, I can be knowledgeable here. For those of you that may be interested, Sissinghurst Castle was the home of Vita Sackville West.
Yes.
Who was one... Oh,
no, Karen.
She was one of the the Bloomsbury.
She was one of the Sackville West.
Sackville West, yeah, absolutely. And
the Kent Sackville West.
Yes, the Kent Sackville. You know, lived at Sissinghurst. We did.
Sissinghurst, how wonderful!
And she was quite controversial in her day. But what I found even more interesting when I worked for Kent County, that was a bit of a noir there again.
You can tell she's moved west.
When I worked for Kent County Council, in their archives, we had a lot of Vita Sackville West's original letters and things that were sent. So again, that's somewhere I've never been, but hopefully the weather forecast is looking good, isn't it? So hopefully, as long as little sis is up for it, we shall be doing that on Friday. And then Saturday, they'll be getting the bunting out, so I'm going back to my own home, having been away just over a week because I had a few days at Big Sister's. Sadly, I had to go to a funeral. My very first boss. In January, I went up to Kent to celebrate her 100th birthday with a very nice afternoon cream tea at a place called Whitstable Castle. And then sadly, she passed away a few weeks ago, so I went and said my final farewell to her Friday, and then I drove across here. That's me finished. Over to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be quiet now for the rest of the recording.
There is actually some knitting.
Yes. And I know what it is.
Well, it's been drying in the dining room for the last 3 days. So,
but it's for me.
It's for Bevy.
It's for me.
It's for Bevy, and I'm now sitting on it, so it's probably all stretched out. Sorry.
That's okay.
So this is Bev's sweater, which is made in Yarn Smith Create Double Knitting, in the colourway Vintage Teal.
Because I'm vintage.
Now this was, I said last month that when I saw this colour I thought that would be a great sweater for Bev.
Yeah, you did.
To go with her blue eyes, because I didn't have any red.
Just in case.
Eldest sister has brown eyes, I have brown eyes. I'm not talking...
Mother and father have brown eyes.
I'm not talking anything about the milkman, but...
Yeah.
So this is 100% acrylic yarn, which means Bev can wash it in the machine.
Hey!
I do not give the gift of hand washing to people who don't want it.
No.
So, to talk a little bit about the pattern, she'll probably doze off at this point, because...
I'll drink my cup of tea, so if I slide off, it's because I'm...
It's not because I've pushed her.
Getting my cup of tea.
Honest. So, the basis for this was an
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Carry on.
The basis for this was an Anne Budd pattern.
I'll be quiet now.
From the book of top-down sweater patterns. I had, in March, when you last visited,
Yep.
taken measurements from a sweater that Bev brought with her that she liked the fit of. And that was a saddle shoulder pattern, so I thought I'd do the same. So I went to my Anne Budd books and took that for the numbers. I added in a stitch pattern from a Barbara Walker book, and this is called Gothic Lattice. I don't know why I'm looking at you, you don't know.
No, because you had a free rein, I left you to it.
Well, I know Bev likes a cable. So top down...
Les would rather it was an electric one outside in the rain that I was holding, but...
No, surely not. So I chose the pattern based on... I could get 2 repeats of it into the saddle. So it's quite a narrow pattern with lots of repeats across the body. So for the sleeves, I just followed the repeat down and the rest is stocking stitch. I have blocked this, but you wouldn't tell because it's still folding in. I'm hoping that when Bev wears it, it will not do that.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. And I think when you saw this last month, I'd started doing stocking stitch from the saddle down, and then I thought, hang on, I want reverse stocking stitch because I want the pattern to be on it. So I just did a slight sort of, almost like a chevron here to move from one pattern into the next. So that's what we did here. The number of pattern repeats works beautifully for the saddle shoulder, but not for the front and back. So I did a sort of mock seam with just a 2x2 cable just to give a bit of definition between the front and the backs. Bless her. And when I got to the ribs, I carried on. Oh, sorry.
Just beat me up with it. That's fine. Yeah, just.
Egad, sir.
Yes.
Yes. I carried on the cable patterns into the rib, so we can see the twisted stitches are in there as well as a regular rib pattern. So it became a 2x2 rib, but every third one has the twists that are in the Gothic lattice pattern. I also did that on the cuff. You've got a bit of twist, and I also did that on the neckband, so it just carries on the pattern. And also at the sides of the neckband, I was worried it was getting a bit loose. I did quite a deep neckband because I've recently made 3 of Bev's sweaters. I've altered them because the neckbands were getting quite loose, so I thought if I do quite a deep one, hopefully it will constrict her throat. No, that's not what I mean. Hopefully they won't go loose and baggy. And
she loves me, really.
Yes, dear.
Yes.
So I copied the pattern in, and then I did a couple of decreases as well, just to bring it in so it sits neatly against. I don't want her getting a cold neck.
You can see yeah, keep my neck warm.
So I think those are the details on the sweater. It was was it a 46 chest, 48 chest, something like that?
I don't know, because you measured it, and I
measured.
left you the jumpers here, so.
Yeah. And so I pinned it out to match that when I blocked it, and hopefully it will fit. We're about to find out. And it used 1,040 something metres of yarn. So.
Wowza! That's a lot of yarn. That's not a lot of yarn. That was quite economical, really.
It's kind of what you'd expect.
Okay, it's normal. Size. For the size, it's just right.
I just let folks know, so if they want to make a similar sweater, they'll have an idea of how much yarn to buy.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So hopefully she likes it. As we're recording this at the moment, hopefully she'll say that she likes it, whether she does or not.
I do. I like it very much.
That's good.
Yeah.
And do you want to try it on?
I'm going to try it on. I'm going to disappear from camera while I try it on, and I will return in a moment.
Yes, because no one needs to see that.
No, absolutely not.
So I'll carry on talking about the stitch pattern while not being distracted by Beverly taking her sweater off and putting another one on.
I've learnt you put a stitch so I know which is the back.
Oh yes, I put a little... in the same way that when you're weaving in ends, you can kind of go between the stitches. I do that with a contrast yarn in the back, so it's easy to see where the back neck is. Although it is higher at the back than the front. But well, it fits. Does it feel okay? That's the question.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, we're going to have trouble with her.
Fits. Sleeves I'm not so sure about.
I actually... excuse me.
Hello, I'm back.
I will take some pictures of you in a minute for my Ravelry page, if I may. Thank you. I actually made it slightly short because I knew when I blocked it, being acrylic yarn, it would grow. So does the length feel right?
Yeah, no, it's nice because I like it that length. Thank you.
That's good because that's the same as.
Shall I leave it on then if you can take some pictures?
If you don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the stitch pattern was from a Barbara Walker book. It was actually in the Twisted Stitch Patterns section.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. God, I didn't realise I'd get that for it. Oh, Lord. Help me.
I'm going home soon. Time for my tablet.
I think that ship sailed.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, so I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I like the colour as well.
Good. Well, we
Very
have
nice.
Karen to thank for the colour because Karen from Recreational Knitting ordered a load of yarn from Wool Warehouse, and it was this same yarn. There's also some grey.
Thank you, Karen.
And some white. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, Barbara Walker, for the stitch pattern. Thank you, Anne
Barbara
Budd.
Walker.
I don't know if she's still with us, actually. Forgive me if she is. I'm not wishing her any ill. And thank you, Anne Budd, for the numbers.
Thank you, Anne.
And
thank you, Lesley, for making it for me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. One interesting thing, as you know, I have lots of different projects, so I tend to do one for a day and then move to another. Because Bev was coming to visit, I thought, well, I'll try and get this done in time for her visit so she can take it away. And we joked when we last spoke that she can take it away with her even if it's not finished before she gets here. So I was working exclusively on that item for about a week and a bit. Got sick to the back teeth of it, I'll be perfectly honest.
Not me, the jumper, I hope. Yeah,
And,
wavering there.
Yeah. It's not been a week yet.
Yeah,
so,
that's it. We're only halfway.
So this is why it's a good idea for me to have more than one project, so that we don't have to get sick of it. We can vary things.
That's why I'm glad I've got more than one sister.
Me too.
Yeah, I sort of opened that up for that, didn't I, really?
Yeah, it was a bit.
Yeah.
You line them up, I'll knock them in, yeah.
In we go.
Absolutely. Yes, so it's been a fun week. So yeah, Hever, had we gone there, I mean, whether we go there or not, it's still the home of Anne Boleyn, but it's further away than Sissinghurst, and we just thought we'll do that another time. We'll do Sissinghurst this time. So Sissinghurst known for its gardens, so if I take any pictures, I'll put those in at the end as well, and I will label what's where for those who are interested. But we might go to the pub quiz tomorrow night, mightn't we?
Oh yes, we might try and be intelligent.
No, we're going to the pub quiz.
Yeah, we'll go to the pub quiz instead. Yeah. So.
Now himself seemed to be putting barriers in our way, because where they sit, there wouldn't necessarily be room for us as well. And I said, well, we don't have to be on your team. We could be a competing team. So that could get interesting.
Yeah.
Depends if he wants to lift home or not, really.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Wait and see if it's raining.
Yeah.
That would decide.
Yeah. He definitely won't get a lift if it's raining.
No. Just make him walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
But apart from that, we're just kind of chilling in the evenings, aren't we? And
out
during the day.
I want to make sure I don't wear little sis out too much. So, and also when you've been out all day, you don't always want to go out again in the evening. By the time you come home and had a meal, it's not really worth going out. When you get to that certain age, you don't go out after like 7 o'clock, do you? Our
dad always used to have a saying, particularly in the winter, but he'd get to a point in the day, whoever's out stays out, whoever's in stays in.
That's it. Yeah.
And kind of know where he's coming from with that one.
Yeah.
But
I'm very much like that as well. Yeah, shut the door, that's it.
I'm like that from about October till March, really.
I'm like it from January to December.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
you're quite lucky I'm here, really.
Yes.
You might not think lucky
is the word we're looking for, yes. Yeah.
She loves me, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise she wouldn't let me stay.
Yeah.
I'm only here today so I can walk Heidi later because himself's gone off to cricket. Otherwise I'd probably be
Bev, you're here
home.
for the joy of your company.
Absolutely, you liar. You liar. She does tell lies so much.
No, I don't.
No, she loves me.
No.
I know she does, really. Yeah.
Should we let these good people get on with the rest of the day?
I think we should. You've had enough of me now. That'd be it for a few months to let you get over this one. Yes. Nice to see you all again. Thank you for watching. What theme tune should we finish with this time?
What did we finish with last time?
I don't think we did. We were in hysterical laughter.
Yes, probably.
So, yes. Enjoy it. Nice to see you all. And I'll now let Les take some pictures of my jumper.
Indeed.
Nice to see you. Bye-bye.
See you in the next section. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
I've got a little bit of spinning to show you, and it's still on the bobbin at the moment. I've just plied it. I'm going to let it sit and rest for a few days before I skein it and soak it, because this is an attempt at chain plying, and it's probably the first time I've done it for an entire braid of yarn. Chain plying is one of those things that I feel I struggle with, so I've done odd little bits of practice, but if you're going to do it, you've got to practice it. So this is roving from Blarney Yarn, and they have an Etsy shop which I'll link below. They are based in Washington, I believe, Washington State. And this is 100% organic Polworth wool, 2 ounces of it, in the colourway Cirque, as in the French word for circus. And the reason why I wanted to chain ply it is because you can see the fabulous colours in it, and I wanted to preserve them as much as possible. So for those who don't spin, when you chain ply yarn, you pull a loop in the sort of almost like a fold in the single that you've got, and then you pull a thread through it, same yarn, and you're making like a giant crochet chain as it plies. So what that does is that keeps colours together. So you've got the loop and the long thread that then comes up through the loop to form the next loop. Hope you're understanding this. And you've got the same colour yarn all plying together, whereas when you split a braid, unless you can match up the colours in the singles, you end up with that more mild effect that you often see in hand spun yarn. And I feel from that point of view it's worked pretty well. We can see definite blocks of colour. When you look close up there are slight variations in them, but I'm happy with that as a general practice. Not the best yarn ever, but I'm pleased with how it's going. It was a useful practice. It's ridiculously overspun, which is why I want to keep it on the bobbin for quite a while and let some of that energy kind of relax out of it, because if I were to try and skein this up at the moment it would curl like a piggy's tail. It would just be very, very twisty. So I want to let it have time to rest on the bobbin, maybe for a week or so, and just let it rest into its shape and calm. That's the hope. But that won't get done by the end of the podcast, and I wanted to show you this, or by the end of the month for this month's podcast. And I wanted to show you these colours. So pleased with how it's gone. For my first kind of long chain ply, because like I say, I've done it in small pieces before, usually the end of bits or what have you. From that point of view, I don't think it's too bad. It's fairly even thickness. I mean, as I'm looking at it, some bits are really tightly spun, some are very loosely spun. Some look like ropes, some look like coils that I could stretch. You know, there's a lot of inconsistency in the plying of this, but that is why we practice, so that's okay. And yeah, the colours are great, which is why I wanted to preserve them as much as possible. Don't know what I'll do with the yarn. It looks at the moment as if it's a kind of sport to double knitting weight. I'll see how that comes out once it's soaked and treated. But for my first long chain ply, I'm quite happy with how it's come out. Cheers. Hello lovelies. Now this is a project I've had in my mind for a long time, and I set it up as a project for last year I think, and then never got round to it, went on to other things instead. This happens. What I wanted to make was a sort of heat proof mat to put on my dining table, like a table runner but not quite. Our dining table is like a refectory table, so it's a long narrow one which comfortably seats 4. You can kind of get 6 round, but it is quite narrow. So I got another table which folds down, looks nothing like the first one, different colour wood, you know, it doesn't match in any way, shape or form, completely different style, but about an inch or two within the same length and the same height. So I can put the two together and make a big square arrangement. On the rare occasions that we do entertain, I normally like to put everything in the middle of the table and let guests help themselves. Being a fussy eater, I know what it's like to be faced with a plate of food that you think, don't like half of that stuff, this is going to get embarrassing. So what I wanted to make was a large-ish table runner, but not one that goes the whole length, because you might have people sitting there, that I could then put hot dishes on. Not the really hot stuff, but just with a bit of protection, to sort of a bit of padding to protect the table. So I thought cotton would be a good use. I know wool is also a good use if it's felted, make nice hot pads and that kind of thing. But to quote Jude of Rewilding Jude, and this phrase, he said this some time ago and it's been in my head ever since. I'm going to have to put it onto a cross stitch or something. The best thing to use is the thing that you have. And a long time ago I bought some sugar and cream. I've got another cone of this in a different colour as well. This is the Pretty Pastels colourway, and I've got one that's lighter, even more pastel in colour. So I thought I would make this, and I'm doing corner to corner crochet because that gives you quite a nice thick fabric. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a rectangular piece that's twice the length of what I want, and then I'm going to fold it in half across the width so that we have double thickness for putting on the table. I don't know that I'll put any wadding in between, because I would also, as this is 100% cotton, like to be able to put this through a very hot wash if I've spilt food on it. As I spill food on most of my clothes, it is likely that I will spill food on this, or one of my guests will, and I don't want anyone to have to worry about it. I'll just get the vanish out and put this through on a hot wash. Perfect. So that's what I'm doing. I started this yesterday evening, realised I made a bit of a mistake because I got to the width I wanted, and then I started decreasing on both ends rather than just on one, so I found out I was making quite a small square, which I could have used, but I thought, no, let's unpick it and make what the original plan was. In the camera, it's flashing in quite an interesting way. It doesn't look so obvious when you see it in real life. You don't have that kind of zigzag, like you can see a zigzag of the purple here and then of the blues and greens. Yeah, interesting. Obviously from a distance it looks like that. I'm looking close up and it's not as obvious, but doesn't matter. Hopefully it'll be mostly covered with dishes of delicious food. Depends if I've been cooking or not. But there we go. So this project that for ages I was thinking, oh, I must get on with that, and never have. And then I was thinking, oh, what if I don't have enough yarn? What if I need both of these cones and more? I don't think that's going to be an issue somehow. I wish I could gauge these things better. Sometimes I'm really hot on it and other times not a chance. So this will be a more than enough yarn project, I think. It's going into the rotor, so once a week or so I'll pick it up and do another evening's work on it, and then when it's done, it'll be done. Cheers. Hello lovelies. So we're nearing the end of the month, so I felt I ought to give you a bit of an update from Bev's week with us, because we were going to do lots of things. That's the wrong bit of paper, that's the right bit of paper. I've had to make notes because my memory is not what it once was. Actually, it's exactly what it once was. It was never good. Golf, the day after we recorded that bit, didn't happen. Unfortunately, Bevan himself, I'm just going to put it a bit more forward. There we go. Bevan himself were on their way to the golf course. They were held up behind some roadworks, and Bev started to have problems with her car. So they turned around and came home, which turned out to be the right thing to do. Once here, she called out the AA to have a look at it, and they were able to identify the problem. She's now got it fixed, so that's all good. The pub quiz himself was appearing a bit reluctant, but bless him, he actually got the people in the pub to reserve some extra seats because their team of 3 was going to be 5 for that night. So bless his cottons for doing that. I would like to say that we repaid that kindness by adding a lot to the quality and the calibre of the team. I would like to say that. We had a kind of, I'd call it a strong mid-table position. That's how I would describe it. We didn't come last. It was okay. And it's fun anyway. There are some people who take it terribly seriously. We are not them. I mean, we're not messing around all the time. We're not putting other people off. But if you get stuff wrong, then you learn from it. You know. Hurstmonceux Castle. We did get in touch with the management, and we've had a nice email back pointing out the bit on the website that we should have read, but acknowledging that it was lost in a big block of text. So they have taken on board our observations, and my guess is we'll do nothing, but were very polite and thanked us for them. So that's that. And then Bev went home. So the week after, I decided to sort out my stash. Well, sort out suggests keeping some and getting rid of some, doesn't it? That didn't really happen. What I did do was tidy it up and contracted the space that it takes up. I had lots of yarns in glass jars. And I initially started doing that partly as a decorative feature, but also partly moth protection, because I'd have 1 or 2 skeins in a jar, so even if there's a moth in with that, it's not affecting the rest of the stash. That was my thought process. But jars take up a lot of room, particularly when you get quite a lot of them, as I did in the end. So I decided to pull all of the stash out of the cupboards and then start again. And there's that bit in any kind of tidying, decluttering, sorting out process where you just look around and you think, this is horrendous, this will never be straight. This is that stage. Yeah. That was not a happy moment. But it did give me an opportunity to have a look at what I'd got. And one of the things that happens when you have a lot of stuff for the space that's meant to hold it is that stuff gets shoved into corners and nooks and crannies, and so you end up starting with a process of all of one type or all of one colour or all of one weight will be here, and you end up with lots of stuff shoved in around it. So by pulling everything out, I at least had an opportunity to sort that. What it did reveal to me was how much double knitting weight yarn I've got, and lots of little part balls and scraps. A lot of these are results of the inherited stashes that I've received throughout time, so not ungrateful for those, but it does mean I'm left with lots of bits that aren't necessarily easy to put together, certainly not in large projects. But if you have a whirly machine, and by that I mean an Addy King Size Express, I think that's what it's called, you can make hats for homeless people. So yes, some of them are solid colour. Some of them was where I had one odd ball of stuff that I didn't know what else I'd use it with. Some was just putting together similar colours. And one is very stripy and scrappy because lots of different bits and pieces. But that's okay. It will all be warm. And in fact, these will probably be warmer because the beauty of these hats is they are one long tube. So you don't have to weave in the ends, you can just leave the strands in there because they're not going to come undone and go anywhere, hopefully. So there's more yarn in these hats, these very scrappy ones. So hopefully that will make them nice and cosy for the people who need them. So I'm putting a small collection together, and there's a local homeless charity that I like to offer things to if they want to take them. So that's where these will be going. I also realised I've got quite a lot of, well, not quite a lot, but I had a few scraps of bulky weight yarn as well. So I'm also knitting, hand knitting some hats. And this, for the numbers, I have based this on the, now it's spelt O-C-H-O, and I'm looking at that thinking Ocho, but of course it could be Ocho or Ocho. But it's the Ocho hat by Tracy Baptiste. It's a free pattern which I'll link below. The original is a bottom-up hat. I wanted to work top-down, so I used Tracy Baptiste numbers, and I'm working top-down to make this. So again, hopefully a really warm and cosy hat. We're going to have a few different colours in these hats, but that's okay. They are going to be warm and cosy, I hope. So that was a good exercise for sorting out bits and pieces that I could use for those kind of projects. It did have the achieve the goal as well of contracting how much space everything took. So where I had jars all over some of the other cupboards here in this room, those jars have all gone. In fact, they've mostly gone to neighbours. We have a street WhatsApp group, so I just had a load of, well, I had all of the glass jars on our dining table, took a photograph, can anyone use any of these? And one of our neighbours is having a party this weekend as I record this. Yeah, that's right. And he took a lot of them because he wants to use them to hold tea lights and candles for the garden. We're all invited to the party, I hasten to add. It's not, thank you for these jars for the party that you're not coming to. It's not that. So that was useful. We had a couple of other neighbours wanted them for kind of storage. One wanted them for her daughter. Great. So they all went, they all found a home. They're all being used. This is fab. And I'm going to put footage in here of just a sweep around the room to show how it's contracted the space, and it looks a bit neater and tidier. It's still a yarn stash, and yarn stashes, some people can get their yarn stashes to look very aesthetically attractive. I can't, but it's okay. it's easier to find stuff now, and that's also very important. Another thing I've been doing is I've been saving my orts. Orts are, and I hope I'm using the right term for this, I'm pretty sure it is, they are the bits of yarn that are left over when you've woven in ends, just the little odds and ends. And I've been saving them for quite a while, and a couple of Christmases ago I put them in baubles, clear plastic baubles, and hung them on a tree. Wasn't mine, just somebody's tree. No, I'm joking, just a tree that we have in our porch. I decided to carry on that theme, but do things slightly differently. So I've made a garland, which is sitting here, and I'll put footage in here of so you can see it in more detail. And as you can see, I've combined plastic baubles full of yarn bits with empty cotton reels or sewing thread reels that I've covered in a bit of washi tape to give them a bit of sparkle. So yes, that's what I've been doing. I strung them all on tiger tail, which is the thin wire used in jewellery making, because I thought that would be strong enough to take the weight of these. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with how it's turned out. It's just sitting there at the moment because I don't know where else to put it. I may put some arrangement together for hanging it and sort of having it as a garland, but it's quite fun as it is. So thank you. As I mentioned previously, I usually have a number of projects on the go. About 4 or 5 works well for me. In theory, I do one for a day and then move on to the next. So going back to it once a week is about the right frequency for me, there or thereabouts. And I've been more sort of generic about this as this process, as this way of doing things has evolved. So I now have a double knitting weight project, a 4-ply weight project, and so on and so forth. Because I've finished Bev's sweater, I've started another double knitting weight project, which is a sweater for me, and it's the Salty Days sweater. I print everything off in black and white, so I hope you can see that okay. I'll put the designer's picture here as well. So this is Salty Days by Veronica Lindberg. And as you can see from the picture that I'm going to put here, it's a crew neck sweater with texture in it, so some lace work or eyelet work and some cables. The designer has done it all in one colour, and as far as I could see, all the projects on Ravelry have it all in one colour. I'm not doing that. I don't have quite enough, you know. So I've got a load of skeins of double knitting weight out, and I laid them all out on our coffee table and said to himself, I need 7. Which do I go for? So that's what we did. So this is the first one. I will go through all the yarns in a lot of detail when I finish the item. But this is from the Yarn Hut. And this was some that himself had bought me on one of his trips. He goes away a lot. So this was some stuff that he'd bought me. My idea is to hopefully, it's not going to show, where you have a lot of texture with the cables or with the eyelet work, I'm going to use solid or semi-solid yarns, and where you have just the rib or something sort of plainer, that's where I'll use the variegated. So this is the first part. It's worked top down. You start with the back, this is the top of the back, and then you pick up the shoulders, work down the front. You know how these things go. I don't have a lot to say about it at this point because that's all I've done, but I do have one thing that amused / confused me, and that was the gauge swatch. Yes, I did gauge swatch. I'm sorry to raise that, but I do try to. In fact, quite often I'll do a gauge swatch of the yarn that I want to use and then find a pattern to suit it. But this I wanted to make the pattern, so there's a novelty. But the gauge swatch is over a rib stitch. This rib stitch, which you use for the top of the back. And I found that slightly odd because of course ribs do this. So it gives you a gauge after blocking and a gauge before blocking, all very useful. But in my case, I think the before blocking is the more useful, because how aggressively do you block your gauge swatch? There is a slight difference in both the stitch and row gauge according to the pattern. Okay. But I would then block the swatch to match the pattern, not the other way around, because rib does that flexible thing. So I thought that was an interesting choice. It may make more sense as we go along, but I just thought that was an unusual choice that would leave you open to the gauge being way off very easily. And this would actually be a good opportunity to practice perhaps the cable pattern, where you know that the stitches are going to be pulled in because it's cables, or the lace pattern, the eyelet pattern, to get used to that technique. So yes, I thought that was an interesting choice, because I did my swatch and then I thought, well, how do I block this? Because like I say, I would pin it to match. You know, if you finish the garment, you'd then pin it to match the measurements on the schematic, wouldn't you? Couldn't you? Oh. Confused of East Sussex here. But anyway, we will see how it goes. I'm liking these yarns. Like I say, this one's from the Yarn Hut. These are all quite squishy merino yarns that I've got. I think they're mostly superwash. That means that it will probably pill like crazy, because they're double knitting weight, which I would normally expect to use on a 4mm or a 3.75. I think Bev's sweater was on a 3.75, I believe. This is on a 4.5, and in fact the gauge for the pattern, the recommended needles 5mm, I was coming up a bit loose, so I went down to 4.5, and I preferred the fabric. Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit looser gauge, so I should imagine it will pill like nobody's business. But we have gleaners, we can sort that out, hopefully. So I'll show you more progress on that as we go along, if there is any. Cheers. Hello lovelies, I've done a little bit more on the Salty Days. I keep wanting to say the Salty Days tee. I must have another pattern name in my head for some reason, but it's the Salty Days sweater. And I've just done most of the rows of the second stitch pattern. Well, actually the third, because there's a little eyelet row, and then there's an eyelet diamond pattern. So I haven't done that much more, been working on other things, but I will carry on with this at a steady pace. And this is the back. Once I've done a little bit more on this, and then pick up the shoulders, work the fronts, and so on and so forth. So I'll show you more of that when it's done next month. One observation and a plea to pattern designers. Please could you make sure they can print out okay in black and white? I know a lot of people use their devices to read their patterns, but there is still a good proportion of us that print them out, and on black and white to save on printer costs. And this particular pattern, the lines showing the stitch demarcation, the numbers for the row indicators, and also the abbreviations, you know, the chart symbols and what they represent, I've had to go through and write over it with pen because it's not very clear. So hey ho, I'm sure we'll manage, and you'll see more of this next month. Cheers. Started a new blanket, and this is using Jaeger Minstrel, which I have lots of in my stash. I was given a sort of bundle of it, not enough to make a sweater, but a fair few balls of it. So I've got that. Now this is quite an old yarn, I don't think it's still made, but it's 65% acrylic, 25% nylon and 10% mohair. And as you can see, it is quite fluffy, it's got quite a halo there. So I thought I'd make a blanket, and I thought, well, what can I make that will, what can I put with that yarn to give me a blanket quantity, if there is such a thing. And I have got quite a bit of Shh, which is by James C. Brett. Yes, it is, James C. Brett. And the makeup of this is, on the other side, it is 80% acrylic, 20% wool. But again, there's that brushed, I don't think it's mohair because it would say so, but it is brushed, so it gives you that halo, that fluff. So that seemed like a good idea, and there's a lot of yarn for your put up there, because it's a DK weight which then matches the Jaeger, although it does look a little finer, but it's working up okay. It's a 100 gram ball and there's 550 meters of this, so you get a lot of yarn for your ballage, if that doesn't sound terribly rude. So I thought I would make another crochet blanket, and this is a Yarnspirations pattern, and it's called the Radiant Rays crochet blanket. It's a free pattern which I shall throw on the floor, but I shall also link below, and you can see the chart, and as it's free I can show you. So you've got a lot of treble stitches, UK terminology, and chains. No, stop it, Lesley. When you're working it, it means you end up with this very sort of baggy bit. But the blanket itself, the final blanket, this pattern doesn't show, you actually chain up the chains. So your circular blanket has these columns of bigger looking chains in there. And I've found it easier as I'm working along. Every time I've done half a dozen rows, I've just unpicked this loose one to show you. But every time I've done half a dozen rows or so, I've chained them up, secured them with a stitch holder. I just found it made the fabric of the blanket easier to work with, and give you a sense of how the blanket is going to turn out. So I started with the minstrel. I've then added in a few rows of the shh, and I think I'm going to do a big block of the shush and then back to the minstrel. So we'll have this sort of little bit of mixing in of the colour. When I get towards the end of this, I'll probably do a few rows of the minstrel to blend it back in. I'm not trying to do any kind of fade, it's just to give it a slightly softer transition. And this blanket will be as big as the yarn allows it to be. So it's something I'll be working on once a week or so, part of my planning my project system. Oh, to call it a system, that's overstating it. But it's a nice easy project, fairly light. I mean, it will get warm if the warm weather continues, but it's an easy in front of the TV project. Don't have to think about too much or look at too closely while I'm working it. So that is that thus far. Hello lovelies. Time to just round things up. I'm working on the Flora Viola sweater. Life updates. Well, you've had most of those, because most of what's happened this month happened with Sister. So you had the pleasure of her company, and I've given you the updates of what happened the rest of that week. So the rest of the time, been resting. I was quite tired. I mean, Bev and I did a lot of stuff, which was great, and it was nice to go out and see different places, and we also had extremely lovely weather, which was good, but it did leave me pretty weary. That's probably my biggest kind of thing at the moment. It's the fatigue. So I'm on this sabbatical, I suppose you'd call it, from treatments. I'm seeing the oncologist again in a couple of months' time. We'll then review, get rescanned, see what we're dealing with, and deal with accordingly. So in the meantime, I am resting up pretty much, apart from a week of excursions and then doing my yarn cupboard. But I'm just, when I'm out, it's seeing a few friends for coffee or for lunches, those kind of things, which are really lovely. Just a couple of hours at a time, and then resting, lots of daytime napping, which I'm a big fan of. So no issue there. And yeah, just trying to get myself relatively strong to deal with the next lot of whatever it may be. Craft wise, we're halfway through the year, can you believe it? So a few podcasters are mentioning the Christmas word, And there are a couple of people who are doing Christmas in July. One of them is Karen from Recreational Knitting, and also, my name gone blank. Diane, sorry Diane, from My Pink Bathtub. They're both doing Christmas in July make-alongs. And I know certainly with Karen's it's an idea to perhaps start on any Christmas knitting, particularly if you do a lot of Christmas gift knitting, a chance to kind of get started and get ahead with those sorts of things. I say may because I never do what I promise usually, so I might not. But I have an advent that was sent to me earlier this year by a lovely lady who said I had so much fun opening my advent in December, which I'd done as a yarn swap, and also I'd been given an advent as well because I'm very spoiled. She made me up an advent to then open, which I haven't yet. And I was going to leave it till December, but I think I might do that as a Christmas in July type of project. We'll see. We'll see. It would be a fun thing to do anyway, so that may happen. But if you are thinking ahead to holiday giving, then both of those podcasters have encouraging messages for you. Nothing else much planned for July, odd sort of bits and pieces. We're going back to the alpaca farm, the one we went to in the autumn. So I will get some photos of the lovely alpacas there, and the pygmy goats and the sheep and the chickens, and the chickens are all named after drag queens, which I think is fabulous. Yes, we're going back there in a couple of weeks, and a few things arranged, meeting up with friends, that kind of thing, so that'll be good. But generally another month of crafting, taking it easy, trying to just rest and recover before the next onslaught. So I hope whatever you're doing is fun. I hope if you're in the northern hemisphere the weather is warm and sunny but not hot and horrible. If you're in the southern hemisphere, I hope it's not too cold and unpleasant. And I hope that whatever you're doing brings you joy, and that you find time to do the things that bring you happiness in life. So take care everyone, thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you at the end of July. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.